For our gospel reading, we've heard the account of how Jesus healed a woman who for 18 years had had some kind of disease that resulted in her being bent over and not being able to straighten up. We heard how Jesus healed her, and then we heard how he received criticism for the leader of the synagogue for healing on the Sabbath. And Jesus responded, well, you know, everybody goes out and waters their farm animals on the Sabbath. And so why should it be considered wrong for this woman who has been bound by Satan for 18 years to be released from that bond on the Sabbath? And what I want us to think about today is not that Jesus healed a woman, not even that he healed her on the Sabbath, but what I want us to think about is that where Jesus placed the blame for her having this condition. He placed it on Satan. He said this woman was bound by Satan. Now, to go along with that, you can find a number of instances in the Gospels where Jesus healed sick people by casting demons out of them. And that reflects the idea that sickness and disease were caused by the powers of evil. That's the cause of sickness and disease in those instances, the powers of evil. And you know, that seems strange to us. That's a really hard concept for modern people to accept, that the powers of evil cause sickness. We have a modern view of sickness. You know, we place our trust and our faith in modern medicine, and there is no place in modern medicine for the working of Satan or the working of demons. Actually, there's no room for anything spiritual from either God or Satan, either one, in modern medicine. The overriding idea behind modern medicine, and this is the very foundation upon which modern medicine is based, is that there is a physical cause for every sickness. Modern medicine looks at the body like a well-oiled, well-functioning machine, and it runs like clockwork until some outside influence comes and messes that up. It could be a bacteria, it could be a virus, it could be some kind of substance that causes cancer, it could be ultraviolet radiation from the sun, it could be saturated fat or lard or whatever. That comes into the body and disrupts the working of the machine, and then you get sick. So the modern medical view is that there's a physical, identifiable, specific cause for every sickness. Something comes in and breaks something in the machinery of the body, and you get sick. Now, medicine says it knows the cause of some diseases, like the flu, which it tells us is caused by the flu virus, but it doesn't know the cause of a lot of diseases, like, for instance, multiple sclerosis or something. But we know that there is a cause. They just haven't found it yet, but one day they will. Now, that's the modern medical view, the view that disease has definable physical causes. And there's no doubt that that view has led to progress against some diseases, and that's a good thing. But it's also led to something else. And this causes a lot of pain for people. It has led to blaming the sick. And we do blame the sick. You know, if we say that living a healthy lifestyle will help you avoid getting sick, then the necessary corollary to that is that if you don't live a healthy lifestyle, you will bring on disease onto yourself. So those who are sick have either not avoided the things they should have avoided, or they have not taken advantage of the advances in modern medicine that protect people. Things like flu vaccines, cancer screening. Now, here are a few examples that I personally witnessed. A woman had a massive stroke, and someone remarked, "Isn't it awful the way people don't control their blood pressure and don't take their cholesterol medicine, and then they have these strokes? It's just so sad." As an aside, it's worth noting that the woman who had the stroke had neither high blood pressure nor high cholesterol. A man has a heart attack, and someone remarked, I always knew if he didn't lose weight, he was going to have a heart attack. A woman has cancer that metastasized to several different organs of her body, and someone remarks, if only she had had the screening test earlier, they would have found this cancer before it metastasized. A person gets the flu, and someone remarks, well, they should have taken the flu shot. And today, someone gets the coronavirus. They should have worn a mask. I saw a thing on Facebook this week where they're talking about some coronavirus outbreak somewhere. Somebody posted something, well, if they'd all worn masks, none of this would have happened. Somebody else gets it. They shouldn't have gone to that restaurant. They shouldn't have gone to that wedding. You see, modern medicine, without necessarily intending to, has led to blaming the sick. If someone gets sick, it is to a large extent their own fault. They smoked. They didn't exercise. They ate too much fat. They didn't use sunscreen. They didn't have the regular cancer screenings. They didn't take the flu shot. Didn't take their blood pressure medicine. Didn't take their cholesterol medicine. Didn't wear masks. As a minister, I deal with a lot of sick people, and I have seen this thing of blaming the sick cause real harm to people. People know when they get sick that other people are blaming them for it. And people do blame them for it. They might not come out and say it, but they think it. But the worst thing is that people blame themselves. And that's what's so devastating. If I hadn't have done so-and-so, I wouldn't be in this shape today. Or if only I had done so-and-so, I wouldn't be in this shape today. You know, that burden alone can be more devastating to a sick person mentally than the fact that they're sick. The guilt because they think they made themselves sick can be more devastating than actually being sick. And I have seen people really, really struggle with this burden of the guilt for getting sick. And I really feel for those people. But you know, even if our attitude of blaming the sick does put a huge burden of guilt on people, isn't it true? After all, didn't they actually cause their sicknesses? Aren't they just reaping what they sowed? Well, you know, the link that modern medicine talks about between diseases and the things that they have identified as causes is not nearly as strong as is commonly thought. All physical causes of disease that medicine talks about are partial explanations at best. Take the common cold, for example. It's said to be caused by a virus. And yet a study was done where they directly swabbed cold viruses up the noses of people. And only 12% of the people that got the cold viruses swabbed up their noses actually came down with the cold. 88% of the people who had the cold virus injected up their noses did not get sick. Now, if there were a direct physical link between exposure to the cold virus and catching the cold, you'd expect everyone to have gotten sick, but they didn't. Only 12% did. And why is that? Well, modern medicine tells us it's due to our immune system. Our immune system is what fights off sickness, and in those 88% of people that did not catch the cold, their immune system fought it off. But you know, no one really understands how the immune system works. There are a lot of theories and assumptions about it, and these are often presented as fact, but actually no one understands it. We do know, for example, that the immune system is adaptable. Take viruses, for example. As we all should know by now, viruses constantly adapt and mutate. That means they constantly change and develop. And when you are exposed to a virus, Your immune system awakens its memories of how it fought off past viruses and then starts fighting that virus in the same way. But the thing about your immune system is that it has intelligence. It can recognize if that is a new or different virus, and when it recognizes that, it changes its response. It learns from this virus that this virus is not the same, and it learns from that virus how to attack that virus, and so that's what it does. That's how medicine tells us we get over a cold. Your immune system designs a new way to fight this particular strain of the cold, and eventually it does fight it off and you get better. Your immune system is intelligent, and it has the ability to adapt and change. But what's really interesting is that the major action of the immune system is not necessarily going directly after a virus or bacteria or something like that. When you are infected with a virus, what happens is that your body, cells in your body become host to that virus. They let the virus inside them. And that's how you are infected with a virus. The cells of your body let the virus inside themselves. And amazingly enough, cells in your body have the capability to keep viruses out. And that's what they normally do. But sometimes the cells in your body make the decision to let a virus in. They make the decision to cooperate with the virus, and that's when you get sick. Your cells make the decision to cooperate with the virus. Without them doing that, you won't get sick. But they do. Why do they do that? No one knows. But when the cells decide to cooperate with the virus and let the virus inside, the major action of the immune system comes into play. And what happens then is that the immune system goes out and searches out and destroys the cells in your body that have let the virus inside it. And it ejects them from the body. And remember, these cells have let the virus inside them. So as the immune system kills your cells that have let the virus inside them and ejects them from your body, it ejects the virus from your body. So the major action of the immune system is not destroying the virus itself. It is destroying the cells of your body that have let the virus inside them and ejected them from your body. Some cells in your body made the mistake of letting the virus inside of them, and from your immune system's perspective, it was a fatal mistake. So the immune system goes out, kills that cell, and ejects it from your body, and then over time, you get well. But you see, for every time you got sick, there were a million times you were exposed to something and you did not, because your body did not let the viruses take hold, did not host the virus. Our bodies have the ability to do that, to protect themselves. Sometimes they do, and sometimes they do not. Why not? No one knows. But the real cause of someone getting the flu is not the flu virus. The real cause of someone getting the flu is that their body no longer defends itself against the virus. The same thing is true with cancer. Cancer happens when a cell starts reproducing itself wildly, out of control. And we are told that cells like this show up in the body all the time, and the body knows how to take care of them, and it does. But for some unknown reason, sometime, in one particular case, it won't take care of it, and that's when you get cancer. The body detects and destroys tiny cancers all the time on a regular basis. The body is fighting cancer all the time and winning, but one day it doesn't in one particular case, and you get cancer. Why? No one knows. The point is that the exposure to a cause of a disease does not guarantee you will get the disease. There is no fixed connection between what comes into your body and the results you get out. The body is not tied to a predictable response to any kind of bacteria, virus, cancer-causing agent, or anything else that causes sickness. Our bodies are constantly being exposed to a range of bacteria, viruses, and cancer-causing agents, but as a normal rule, we live our daily lives among these things and we do not get sick. It is only when our bodies stop defending themselves against these things that we get sick. Why does that happen? No one knows. You see, the understanding we've gotten from modern medicine about the cause of sickness has enabled progress against some diseases, but there are a lot of no one knows in modern medicine. There are a lot of gaps in the understanding that medical science tells us about disease. We're told that a balanced diet rich in vitamins and certain nutrients is essential to good health, but yet indigenous cultures have existed throughout history that did not have access to that kind of diet, and they survived. Obesity is said to be a major health problem. Many people look at obesity as being people that don't have the willpower not to eat. But studies have shown that's not the case. You can take a chronically obese person, put them on a diet, they'll lose 10 pounds, and when you take them off the diet, they'll gain 15. Why? Because the brain registers that loss of 10 pounds as a famine, and it puts on 15 to guard against the next famine. Amazingly enough, the brain also has the ability to alter the metabolism of your body in such a way that calories are stored as fat instead of being burned as energy. And why does that happen in some people? No one knows. We hear a lot of talk about the flu vaccine in the elderly, but in a study published in the British medical journal Lancet in 2012, the authors reported on a meta-analysis of every study of the effectiveness of the flu vaccine that had appeared in the medical literature since 1967. And from that they quote, "Influenza vaccines can provide moderate protection against virologically confirmed influenza, but such protection is greatly reduced or absent in some seasons. Evidence for protection in adults aged 65 years or older is lacking." That conclusion is what they reached from reviewing every study in the medical literature since 1967. Evidence for protection in adults aged 65 years or older is lacking. No evidence that the vaccine lowered the incidence of disease. It did not lower hospital admissions. It did not lower the incidence of complications, and no evidence that it lowered mortality. And yet, what do you see? The elderly need to get their flu shot. Big advertisements everywhere. And we say somebody gets it and ends up in the hospital. We say, well, they should have gotten the flu shot. But yet, here was this study from one of the most respected medical journals in the world, which reviewed studies over a 45-year period and was unable to demonstrate any effectiveness in the elderly for the flu vaccine. The point I'm trying to make is this, and I know I spent a lot of time going on that medical stuff, but I want to make a point. We have rejected what the Gospels and what Jesus himself had to say about disease. And in its place, we have substituted what modern medicine says about disease. We have rejected Jesus, and we have put our faith in modern medicine. But when you look closely at the explanations you find from modern medicine, you see a lot of gaps. You see a lot of no one knows. Now granted, it's done a lot of good. Are we going to though reject what Jesus himself said because of that? Think of all the times when looking at what modern medicine says about disease, we had to answer the question, why, with no one knows. Does that seem like they've got it figured out? Then why are we so quick to reject what Jesus says in favor of what they say? especially when it has led to us blaming the sick. You see, in the Gospels, whenever Jesus ascribed blame for a sickness, whenever he ascribed blame for it, he always placed it on the power of evil. Maybe we should not be so quick to reject that. Now, I know we're all scientifically minded, we're all educated, intelligent people, but that doesn't mean that you have to just roll over and lay down in the door, in front of the door, in front of science, and let them walk over you. We do not have to reject everything Jesus said just simply because we're intelligent people. You see, in our gospel reading today, we saw Jesus heal a woman. And we saw it said he had compassion on her because she had been sick 18 years. In an incident in the Gospel of Matthew, there's a large crowd gathered around Jesus, and it says Jesus had compassion on them and healed their sick. There are other instances in the Gospels where Jesus had compassion on sick people. Not a one time in the Gospels do you ever find Jesus blaming anyone for being sick. He never did that. Never. He always had compassion on them. And it was not holier than thou compassion like, well, yeah, I know you caused that sickness, but I'm such a wonderful person, I'm going to overlook that. It wasn't finger pointing behind his back kind of compassion. It was genuine compassion. And why would you think that Jesus would have such compassion on sick people? Maybe it's because he realized that their sickness was coming from a spiritual power operating against them, a power against which they could not withstand, the power of evil. Maybe that's where sickness really does come from. Maybe that's the missing link that modern medicine, with its exclusive focus on the physical, cannot find. You know, we saw a lot of no one knows when we were talking about those things.